Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Caught on the Mic. And this one's been a long time coming. First and foremost, as you know, with my fight episodes, I love bringing on a co-host, and who better than the right-hand man, or I'm his right-hand man for Dynasty Combat Sports, my good friend and host of the Sports With Betz podcast, Kaleb Betzold. Kaleb, how the heck are you?
Dude, I'm fantastic, Mike. Thank you for all the kind words. Thank you for allowing me to be back on your show. It's an absolute privilege, and I'm looking forward to getting in and getting in the brain of Mr. Jesus Munoz here in a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As Kaleb said, we have a fantastic guest. He has a 4-0 professional record in our area. He was 37-17 as an amateur. He boxes out of Skywalker 101, coached by our good friend, Coach Danny. Jesus Munoz-Ramirez, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, yes. You know, Kaleb and I have had the privilege of calling all 4 of your professional fights so far.
Yeah.
Let's kind of take a step backwards. How did you get into boxing, and what was kind of your motivation?
Well, so I quit soccer because I wasn't liking soccer no more when I was a little kid. I was like 11 years old. And I told my mom, I was like, yeah, I just don't want to play soccer no more. Like, people are flopping around. They're calling fouls. I don't really like that. And I told my mom, I want to do something physical, something combat related. And so we looked around at some gyms, and boxing came into mind first. And we found South Omaha DG's Boxing Club on 16 and Pierce. That's where it was at, close to downtown. And I went one day, and then, people were hitting the speed bags. They were jump roping. They were doing sit-ups. And I was like, dang, it was intimidating at first. It really was. And I told my mom, like, yeah, like, she stayed. They had like a little like waiting room, and she stayed to watch. And the coach, his name Daniel Guardiola. He doesn't coach anymore, but he's the one. He was my first ever coach for boxing. And yeah, that's how I got started. And I didn't really like it at first. I wanted to quit after 1 week. And then yeah, it's funny. And then my mom was like, no, you can't just quit after 1 week. Like, at least stay a month. And then I ended up staying, and I ended up staying, forever.
What helped you turn the corner? How'd you go from wanting to quit after a week to being a pro fighter, a 4-0 record?
Yeah, so I wanted to quit because I didn't know a lot of things, and I wasn't very talented. But the main thing was that I was training with people that already had 30 fights, and I was training with like really good kids. And I felt like I was like, left behind. I just felt like these guys are so much better than me, and they would kind of beat me up in sparring. And I'm like, man, I can't do it. Like, it's really hard. But then I kept pushing through because I kept seeing like the results, I kept seeing like the progress. And eventually, like, I was the one beating them up in sparring. And then that's how I knew that I was making progress.
Man,
I was going to get far.
That's such a rite of passage. I feel like, like I've done a fair amount of boxing, but also like I've got a jiu-jitsu background, and the first 2 weeks, first month of being a white belt, you just feel like you're getting squished and you're getting beat up by people who you should be beating up. And like, so to go from that to almost, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but almost going from being like intimidated or not like getting beat up to being so dominant. One of the first things I wanted to know, like, do you even get nervous before fights anymore? Like, what does that look like for you?
No, honestly, I really don't get nervous before fights. If anything, I get anxious. Like I want to go in there and get it done, That's how I see it. Like, I don't really get nervous. Like I hope I don't get hurt or anything. Like, because when you train so hard, you know what you're gonna do. You know what's gonna happen. And yeah, that's the mentality I walk in the ring with.
I just kind of building on Kaleb's point, and I was going to point that out, and I'm glad he asked that question, because you sure as hell don't fight like somebody that wanted to quit after a month. Like,
Yeah.
there had to be some major turning point, like a specific moment where you just kind of things clicked and you decided that you had a passion for it. Can you recall that exact moment?
Yeah, it was exactly when I turned 18. Yeah, because I started boxing at 11 years old. I wasn't taking it very serious. I was like, I kind of want to quit boxing and go into, cross country or track for a little bit, or, take a little breaks. And I wasn't very serious. But as soon as I turned 18, I was like, yeah, I have to lock in really. Like I really have to, know what I want. And boxing was it.
Did you have specific influences that kind of helped steer you in that direction, that maybe saw your raw natural talent at that point in time and say, dude, really like embrace this?
Yeah, my older coaches, they were the ones telling me like, hey, you're talented, you hit hard, you're fast, you're light on your feet, like, you can take this very far if you want to, and you just gotta stay disciplined. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, and they were the ones that, kept me in it. Every time I wanted to kind of like drift off and go into basketball or, into something, they'd be like, no, come back. Like, you need to stay focused because you're gonna make it far in boxing.
It's funny to hear you say that, Jesus, because actually one of the questions I wrote down I was going to ask you was, if you didn't find yourself in boxing, what sport do you think you would have ended up playing? You kind of said soccer or basketball. I guess how would you answer that question?
I was honestly thinking about MMA for a while too.
Interesting.
When I told my mom that I wanted to do a combat sport, like boxing was the first one, but I was always interested in, jujitsu or kickboxing or any other stuff. I mean, I think that's always going to remain a mystery. I really don't know.
Never say never, son,
Yeah, it would have been a combat sport for sure.
That's so interesting, man. Because something I think that people overlook is that like definitely the most important factor, and you've hit on it, and I think Skywalker is a great example of this, is that often with combat sports, the people who put in the most work are going to be the people who get rewarded and who get victories. But there's levels to it too, that like people forget that you guys are pro athletes, and just because someone trains as hard as you doesn't mean that they're going to get the same results as you. So like again, I want to get into your head a little bit, just because you've seemed so calm and so confident, and you punch so hard. Like, is there a moment in each of your your first 4 pro fights where you just step in and you can tell that you're a level athletically or training wise better than your opponent, or you're just on another level? Is there a moment where you can feel that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel it in training. I feel it. I was. I'll tell you the story. I was 13 when I sparred. 20, he was 24, 25 years old, and I beat him up. And that's when I knew like there's levels to this, And he was training for already like 5 months. I was training for 2 years already. That's when I knew there was levels. And then when my first fight, I fought Lloyd Chase. Yeah, Lloyd Chase. Like I felt from like the first punch and like his speed, I was just counter punching him, and I knew there was levels to this.
Yeah.
That's a good lead in, because your first 3 professional fights were pretty definitively won in the first round. Your most recent fight, April 17th, you fought Michael Edelman. And that, to me, and I say this objectively, subjectively, and with nothing but love in my heart, but that was the first time I felt like you had actually been tested a little bit in the Dynasty ring. What was the difference between that fight and the previous 3?
I think Michael Edelman was a bit more patient. The reason why I finished the first like three of my fights were because they came at me and they were just swinging, trying to take my head off, and I stayed calm and I was counterpunching, and I counterpunch really hard. So I know when I slip a punch, and I'm able to counter very, very hard. So yeah, and also
Michael's also a psychopath.
He moved his feet, yeah, and he's very tough. After that first knockdown, he was smiling, and I was like, "Yep, it's gonna go the second round."
And I say that with 100% respect. Michael's a training partner. I love Michael. I'd give him a hug if he walked in the room right now. He's 100% a psychopath. He'd even admit that.
Yeah.
Kind of going off of that, everybody's got different styles. Are there any fighters or boxers specifically that you study or aim to model your game after?
Yeah, kind of like Terrence Crawford. Like I kind of want to have that, being able to switch like from southpaw to orthodox. I like that a lot about Crawford, and you never see him get tired too. That's the boxer I look up to. I look up to like Julio Cesar Chavez. He's very good. He was a very great boxer. Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran.
Yep.
Yep, that guy. He's very, very mean. And I want to have that like mentality, the one he had, just very, very mean, very aggressive.
You train at a very prestigious gym. You know, Skywalker 101 Boxing Academy, you're training under Coach Danny. There are a lot of names that walk through those doors. Have you had the opportunity to interact with Terrence Crawford in any capacity, whether it be at Skywalker or another gym? I don't know if Terrence has ever dipped in there or not, but
Mhm.
in had a moment where you've been able to have a conversation with him?
No, to be honest, no, I haven't. I just dove. He only told me one time, like, "Oh, like I saw your fight, good fight," and that was it. And just a photo. It was at the Golden Gloves, actually. Yeah, it was at
Nice.
the. Well, what year was that? 2023. Yeah, 2023 Golden Gloves.
Yeah. Is that something that you would entertain? Would be a one-on-one conversation with him and kind of pick his brain apart?
Yeah, yeah. If he could give me advice, that would be awesome. You know, I always listen to everybody. So yeah, that
Sure.
that would be something. Yeah, that's something on my mind.
Without showing your cards or giving anybody any bulletin board material, what do you feel like you have to improve on, or what do you think? What aspects of your game are you actively working on to get you to the next level?
I think
Anything
it's
specific?
it's the ability to like read fighters, and also I've been working a lot on my being able to switch to a southpaw. Just to because when you switch southpaw on another southpaw, they get confused. And it really throws them off their game. They're like, wait, this guy just switched southpaw. And that's what I feel like a lot of people don't know about me. And they're like, I can also switch and I can also
Yeah,
counterpunch. Some people think I'm just a pressured fighter and like, no, I can counterpunch.
I feel like some of your biggest highlights have definitely come off of that right hand, counterpunching too. I think that, without going back and looking at the film, I want to say a couple of your stops have come from exactly that scenario. So if you add Southpaw to the mix, I mean, man, that's a whole nother avenue you can walk down, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So training at Skywalker 101, talk about that experience a little bit. Kind of walk through what a normal training session is like for you and who some of your training partners are at that gym.
Yeah. So when I first started, I was 16 and I was training with them. And the first thing I know is like, these guys are strong. Like I was sparring with grown men, and I was used to kind of sparring with like people at the other boxing gym, and they're not very strong, like they're quick, they're light on their feet, but these MMA fighters, they're strong, and that's when I knew like, yeah, I have to get my strength up, my strength and conditioning up, and I got to start hitting the weight room. Yeah, but it was always nice, but like training with Carlos, Blaine. Back then, I would also spar with Nate Smith. All those guys. And I spar with Cohen now too. Cohen Loud, he's very good,
Yeah.
very good striking and very good jujitsu. And yeah, it's always awesome learning from those guys too. And they're just dogs. Like they push me in training a lot. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
I know your focus is pretty sharp and that you've got your eyes on the big prize, which we're going to get to here in just a moment. But have you dabbled in any other disciplines since you are training with so many fighters that come from the mixed martial arts world?
I like that. The MMA, like chain wrestling. Looks so cool. Being able to submit somebody, like it looks awesome to me. I'm just a fan of combat sports.
You're certainly in the right spot for it, man. Whatever they're putting in the water over there at Skywalker, I mean, you guys are just a pro fighting, breeding machine over there.
Yeah.
I don't even know, going back to the origin story. How did you and Danny get connected? How did you find Skywalker?
Yeah, so my mom helped me because she was like, yeah, because I was losing fights. Because that's most of my losses in my amateur days were when I was little, when I was younger. And I was losing fights because I was like, man, I need something like, technique wise. That's what my mom and dad said. And so we ended up finding, Skywalker 101. And we talked with Coach Danny, and he said he's willing to help me. And yeah, he helped me a lot. He took me on the mids. He showed me a lot of technique. He corrected a lot of my errors. And that's how I was able to get to the next level with him. And that all happened when I was 16. And then I turned 17 right away. Forgot what month we started training in, but it was close to my birthday already. But yeah, that's we're here now.
Well, walk us through what Danny says to you in between rounds in the corner, because Kaleb and I always sit there and we speculate. We're like, well, what do you think the corner is saying right now? What is
Yeah.
Danny telling you in between rounds?
Well, he'll tell me, he's like, if he sees any mistake I'm making, If he sees that I'm a little too patient, he'll tell me like, hey, let's just start picking it up a little bit more volume. He'll tell me to go 2-3 or our combos. He'll name them through like numbers, like 6-3 is an uppercut and left hook, and then things like that. And yeah, he'll just he'll give me the right advice. That's for sure. I always listen to him, and that's what got me so far. And if he'll motivate me too, he'll be like, like rip this guy's head off, something like that. He'll be like dropping with the body shot, like break his ribs. That's what he'll tell me. But he always giving me good instructions, good at So and that's what I need every time I'm in the corner, just that reminder, and that's what I like about him.
What does training look like for you then? Like, are you spending a lot of time one-on-one with Danny? Are you doing more group classes? How
Yeah,
does that all break down?
so there'll be like one-on-ones with Coach Danny, and then there'll also be team training in the morning, or it was strength and conditioning with the guys, and then I'll do my boxing training at CW Boxing Club, but that'll be at like 5 in the afternoon. So yeah, I'm training mostly in the mornings with the team with Skywalker.
And that sounds like a lot. That's great. So you're doing individual with Danny, weight training, and then, some team training, and then, some training outside of Skywalker too. Are you always in fight mode then? Or do you ramp up or slow down leading up to a fight and after a fight? What does your training schedule look like normally leading up to a fight and then after a fight?
Yeah, leading up to a fight, like a month out, I got 4 weeks. Yeah, I'm, training 3 times a day, sometimes two. If I feel tired, I'm slow, I'm going a little bit down. If I feel sore, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna train, but I'm not gonna train as hard. I'm gonna take it easy. And that's what I'll do. And then after a fight, I'll kind of take a little break, let my muscles recover. And, if I feel a pain, I'll kind of just I'm not gonna hit the bag. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna let it, heal, and then I'm gonna get back to training. But yeah, I'm always trying to stay in shape, just in case of if something comes up short notice. I'm ready.
Do you have a favorite training partner or sparring partner in the gym?
Not really, but I would say it's like I like sparring with like someone like Carlos Trinidad,
Yeah.
because he'll really like push me and test me, and I'm just like, man, he's so long. He leans back. He's kind of awkward. I'm just like, I can't really hit him. So yeah, I like sparring with him.
Well, yeah. Plus, you always want to spar with somebody that you wouldn't mind trading places with, right? Getting flown out to Dubai and fighting professionally is not a bad life.
Yeah, sure.
Sweet, man.
Well, let's look into the future a little bit. Basic question here. Do you have your next fight on the books yet?
No, not yet.
But you're looking for one.
Yes, yeah, I'm looking for one. Yeah, yeah. If I could fight every month, that'd be awesome.
Where I'm going with this is with a 4-0 record, all of your professional fights being under the Dynasty umbrella so far, and I imagine you'll probably pick up one or two more. There are promotions out there like Zuffa and Top Rank and other big name promotions. Where do you end up seeing yourself landing, say, 6 months to a year from now?
And I just had this conversation with my coach, and we were talking. We were like, I was telling him, I was like, I wonder where I'm gonna end up in. The Zone, Top Rank, all those other promotions, Zuffa. And honestly, like I don't know. It's whoever sees my talent first, really. And I honestly think that's gonna be Zuffa. But I mean, obviously, like if Top Rank offers me, if they want to get me first, I'm obviously gonna go with them or the Zone or etc.
So are you looking at other Midwest promotions to kind of build that resume before you chase that?
Yeah, I'm trying to fight more on like the regional scene, like travel a little bit more. If I get some fights in Kansas or Colorado or wherever, I'm willing to travel. So
As you look to the future as well too, I know that like longevity is a big part of that. What does your like nutrition and your diet look like?
yeah, so I always try to keep my diet clean, but after fights, I do eat like a lot, just because like I see
That's
food and
that
I'm
was
just
gonna be
like, and
yeah,
I'm just like,
that was gonna
man,
be
I
my
want to
follow-up
eat,
question.
but no, yeah, I'm when I'm in fight camp and I'm just eating like 3 times a day, very healthy. That's what it's looking like. And then Elite Nutrition, they help me a lot too with my scans, because with the scans, I'm able to like tell where my body fat is at and everything, and if I'm drinking enough water, my muscle mass, so that helps a lot. But yeah, just the diet, and like I already know what to do because I've been doing it for so long.
That's good. So yeah, I was going to ask you that too. So you're eating super clean. You're getting your labs done. You've got some nutrition help. Yeah, it's just habit to you at this point. And then you have the fight. You do whatever weight cut, have the fight. What's the post meal look like?
Ooh, pizza or Mexican food.
What's your favorite pizza? Where's the best pizza place in Omaha? This is a controversial topic.
For me, I really don't have a preference. I eat wherever. If I get like Domino's or what's that place in Shadow Lake? That pizza place here in Omaha. I forgot the name of it, but it's
I'm
very
not
good
sure.
too. Yeah, I forgot the name of it. It's in Shadow Lake, right off 370, Highway 370. But that place is very
And
good too.
do yourself a favor after your next fight. Get yourself a Tasty's pizza. It's on like 60th and Leavenworth. And they've got this pizza that's got peppers and chicken and buffalo sauce on it. It's got like a special name. Dude, I'm telling you, it's good. Normally, I can't imagine after a victory, that's got to be 10 out of 10. Do yourself a favor and go get that next time.
Yeah, I will.
Sorry for the free shout out, Mike.
Oh, that's all good. That's all good. He's going to recommend Tasties. I'm going to recommend going to Pitch. I love the fire grilled pizza myself, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of bring this home a little bit. Kaleb touched on your diet regimen. We touched on your training. Mindset wise, how do you keep yourself focused and disciplined as you're looking towards the future?
I'm always like trying to improve, Like if I see that, like, let's say I'm getting too comfortable or I'm not training hard enough, like I'll remind myself like, hey, I gotta lock in, like I gotta run even if I don't want to run. I gotta hit the weight room even if I don't want to. It's just, motivation won't really be there. It's just discipline. It's just knowing that I have to do it. I have to. So that's how I keep myself focused. And always like you're always just trying to improve, always learning too.
Knowing what you know now and having experienced what you've experienced, what advice would you give 11-year-old Jesus now that you've had this experience?
I would tell myself like, hey, just be kind to others for sure. Cause people weren't very kind to me, when I was first in the gym. And, if I see kids that need help, I always help them with technique or anything else. It's just be kind, and help out. And always, don't be scared to ask questions too. If you got a question on if, you feel like you're doing something wrong, just ask for help.
Absolutely. What does your like support system look like? Because I'm sure that you tell people you're a pro boxer and they look at you like you're some sort of caveman animal crazy person or whatever, and that's so that's so far from the truth. But yeah, what is your support system? Who do you have rooting cheering you on in your corner outside of the ring?
Yeah, I mean my whole family. My parents have always supported me since I was little. When I was 18, they're like, I had to talk with my dad. And he's like, hey, if you want to do this, I'll support you 100%. But you got to show me that you're, 100%, focused in this and you really want it. And I told him, yeah, I really want it. He's like, yeah, I'll support you 100%. And, it was the same thing with my mom. And yeah, just the rest of my family. I have 2 siblings. They're very supportive. My whole family, my cousins, uncles, aunts, they're very supportive too.
That's good, man. There are 2 things that I think happen when people start attaining goals at a high level, and they're actual psychological terms. And one's called familiarity bias, and the other one is proximity envy. And it's when people that surround you don't see your progress because they're so used to a past version of you. They're so used to the person they know outside of that great thing that you've accomplished. So, kind of building off of what Kaleb asked, do you experience that on some levels sometimes?
Yeah, a little. I do. Because people won't see like the work you put in the gym. They'll think like, oh, this guy's kind of just lucky. Like, nah, like, I've been training since I was 11 years old. I'm definitely not lucky. I wasn't, when I first started, I wasn't fast. I wasn't strong. I was scrawny and weak. I couldn't even run for like 2 miles without stopping, you know? And yeah, like if you're there and like you experience like me working out, you're gonna see like, oh, that's why he's gotten so far.
Would you consider yourself your own worst critic?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Yeah. If not my mom, she'll be like, hey, you got hit once, you shouldn't have gotten hit at all. And I'm just like, man, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, just get to know you a little bit personally here. What do you like to do when you're not putting in work, man? What do you like to do for fun? Anything?
Yeah, I definitely like hiking. I kind of got into like, hiking, going out in nature, walking on my dog, playing video games too. I'll be playing video games. And if I could hang out with some friends, I also go out with them. But yeah, or just hang out with my family too. You know, if I'm not, in training mode and just like, oh, I gotta destroy this guy. And once I'm out of that mode, I can go, relax, just talk with him and just chill.
Absolutely.
I love it, man. Well, I got to tell you, it has been nothing short of a pleasure to watch this ascension in such a short amount of time. And I'm so looking forward to whatever's coming next for you. The closing question that I ask every person on every episode of Caught on the Mic, and I like everybody's different answer based on your level of experience, the things that you've gone through, your levels of training, your experience in the boxing world, your experience in life. What's your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today?
Oh, definitely, just be kind to others. You know, that's my big advice to people. Just be kind. If someone irritates you or something like that, try to understand what they're going through in a way, or yeah, just that would be my best advice. Just be kind, because so many people, I feel like in today's world, they get mad at each other. There's a lot of fighting. Just be kind, to one another. That would be my
Yes. Yeah.
big advice.
The thing I kind of thought about this week is people are really lacking two things. Well, they're lacking one thing. Everybody's lacking nuance, but they're very heavy on presumption. They
Mhm.
lack the nuance to appreciate the differences between one another, but they're very heavy on presuming the worst case scenario about other people. And that kind of lends to your commentary about kindness is,
Mhm.
kindness takes an open mind and a really strong heart. So I
Yeah, it
wholeheartedly
does.
agree with you.
Oh yeah,
That honestly, that answer kind of took me by surprise in a good way, Jesus. Like, and you brought that up earlier about what advice could you give to would you give to your younger self? It's just be kind to people. Even I find myself making the assumption that I thought you'd say like work harder, train harder, whatever it is. Like that's kind of the stereotypical answer, but I really
Mhm.
love that, man. Jesus, I just got to say, man, I think you're the shit. I think that I asked you the question. When did you know that you were a level above people? Like I won't speak for Mike, but I knew first round of the first fight that we called the viewers. I was like, okay, this guy's world class. This guy's is totally on another level. So I just want to say from the
Thanks.
bottom of my heart, man, it's awesome to know you. It's been a pleasure calling your fights, man, and I'm looking forward to being a part of this journey with you and following you as a fan in the future.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. That means a lot. You guys,
Yes.
Of
the
course.
first ones to witness all this, so it's awesome.
I can't second, third, fourth, fifth what Kaleb said enough. Jesus, why don't you tell anybody that's watching this or listening to this where they can find you online?
Yeah, you guys can, follow me on Instagram, Jesus Munoz _11. TikTok too is just my name. Facebook as well, just Jesus Munoz. And yeah, those are only the platforms I'm really on. I don't use YouTube, but yeah, just those three.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're also following Skywalker 101 Boxing Academy on Instagram. They post a lot of content related to Jesus's fights, Dynasty Combat Sports as well. Make sure you're also following at Dynasty Announce Team. But no, I mean, it's a lot of fun, man. And Jesus, thank you so much for doing the show. The world's a much better place with you in it, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on.
And hey, Kaleb, thank you too. You're all right.
Dude, anytime you want, I'll stop what I'm doing and say yes. What a privilege. I appreciate it, fellas.